Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our major stories. Federal Ministry of Justice sets up criminal investigating unit to handle all criminal investigations and fast-track prosecution of cases. Lagos State government to arraign suspected kidnapper Evans on Wednesday as Federal High Court fails to deliver judgment on a suit seeking enforcement of his fundamental rights. Absence of ASU members and some ministers stalls planned negotiation between striking university lecturers and the federal government. Lecturers insist no going back on their demands. US President Donald Trump visits storm-ravaged area of Texas as water levels continues to rise. For more on our top stories and others, please visit our website. It's channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. Log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have access to the Eyewitness feature with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. All humanitarian activities in an IDP camp in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, are said to have been suspended until safety is guaranteed. This decision was made after the IDPs lashed out when they were served a small portion of food. 8 workers were caught in the chaos and some of them sustained injuries. The Borno State Emergency Management Agency is working with security agencies to restore order in the camp.
These facilities at Gubio Road in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, houses displaced persons from 11 local government areas of the state. Aside from shelter, food is another basic need of these people, which the government and humanitarian partners are meeting. But over the weekend, the campers were distraught about the quantity of food shared to them, leaving some aid workers injured and some vehicles vandalized. What could have been responsible for such an action?
We were angry with these people because of the sorghum they gave us, but we simply asked for a quantity that will be enough for us and our families. 2 bowls of sorghum cannot sustain us for a whole month.
The protest was due to the delay in food distribution, and when they finally came, they didn't bring enough. In the past, they used to give us rice. This time around, they brought sorghum, 2 bowls for every family for the next 1 month. With these kind of problems, we would have loved to return home, but we don't have a home to return to.
The State Emergency Management Agency will not have any of that, condemning the violent way of expressing their displeasure.
You are quite aware that the food cluster or food sector arrangement that we are, Gubio IDP camp for the first 3 years was catered by SEMA and ICRC, later WFP now. And when the food, I think, has changed from rice to sorghum and beans, and they protested that they don't want rice, they want sorghum. They don't want sorghum, they want rice. All this will not give them room for them to attack the humanitarian workers.
The United Nations High Commission for Refugees believes returning the displaced people to their homes will be a lasting solution to the problem.
We can never have enough for the IDPs. We're talking of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are in need. And you cannot continue assisting these populations in a humanitarian form forever, because you have also other humanitarian situations around the world, and there is competition for resources.
While that and other options are being explored, humanitarian workers have promised to resume when their safety is assured.
Let's cross over to Abuja studios now, where Maupe is standing by with more stories. Hello, Maupe.
Now, there's been a major shake-up in the hierarchy of the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, that's the NNPC. The Managing Director of the Integrated Data Services Limited, Roland Ewubare, is now the new Group General Manager of the National Petroleum Investment Management Services, while former Group General Manager and Senior Technical Assistant to the NNPC GMD, Mr. Dieprie Taria, replaces him as MD of IDSL. The Executive Director Operations of the Kaduna Refining and Petrochemical Company, Mr. Malami Shehu, is now the Managing Director of the Port Harcourt Refining Company, while former Managing Director of the Warri Refining and Petrochemical Company, Mr. Adewale Ladenagan, has now been moved to head the Kaduna Refinery. In other news, the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, has refuted insinuations that government may be trying to stifle freedom of expression in the country. Mr. Mohammed says instead, government is working at curbing hate speech, which has been on the rise. Referring to the Army statement about monitoring social media, he explained that military surveillance is a routine practice all over the world in order to contain potential security threats. The Information Minister was a guest on our flagship program, Sunrise Daily.
Those who say the government is going to clamp on the freedom of the press, I think are just, exaggerating the issue. Secondly, the report credited to the military that they'll be, monitoring the social media. I think it's a routine thing that military, the security, they do all over the world, monitoring, speeches, monitoring actions, just to balance, just to ensure that there's, no security threat. It does not mean that the military is going to arrest anybody or prosecute anybody because of what he has said on the social media. But there are enough laws in Nigeria to prosecute anybody either for libel, for defamation of character or the like. But the issue about hate speech is quite distinct. And I want to make it clear here that hate speech is not the same thing as freedom of speech or free speech. There's a distinction between hate speech and freedom of expression. This particular phenomenon of hate speech though it's covered under the Terrorism Act, it still gives us a lot of concern. So if the Minister of Interior says they are contemplating fresh legislation, it does not mean that we do not have enough laws, but it means that the government is so concerned. Probably look at, is there any loophole that can be exploited by those purveyors of hate speech today that is not covered in existing laws? For instance, I've heard the opinions of many lawyers saying that there's nothing like hate speech, there's no law against hate speech. So these are things that the government is probably considering and say, look, is there really something that is being exploited by the purveyor of hate speech and fake news that is not, that we need a new legislation for? But one thing that is clear, this is not meant to stifle the press. Rather, the government is concerned that people who are bent on inciting one part of the country against the other, for whatever reasons, is the clearest danger to our unity.
Minister for Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Now, the Benue State Governor, Mr. Samuel Otom, has warned against stockpiling arms to prosecute the conflicts between farmers and herdsmen. Governor Otom described the situation as an unending cycle of violence, which can only be resolved when all cattle headers embrace the state ranching policy. He stated this while opening the first stakeholders meeting of herdsmen and farmers, security agencies, and traditional rulers in the state.
Clashes between farmers and herdsmen over grazing land have resulted in large-scale destruction of lives and property. In Benue State, where such confrontations have wreaked much havoc, government had to introduce the anti-open grazing law in order to bring a lasting solution to the killings and destructions. Now, all concerned parties, farmers, herdsmen, security agencies, traditional rulers, among others, are gathered for a peace talk. Governor Samuel Otom presents the hard truth to them should they refuse to support the Ranchers Establishment Law of 2017.
This problem, if we don't take the bull by the horn, it can never finish. And it will consume all of us. It will consume the farmers and herdsmen. It will consume the traditional rulers. It will consume we in government. And there will be no government because everybody will become lawless. if we decide to take arms, okay, the farmers should also buy arms, the Fulani should also buy arms, and then fight. That thing will be endless.
The farmers and traditional rulers may have accepted the offer, but they want assurances from the herdsmen, who in turn plead for more time to educate their members.
Any association of cattle breeders will put it together that it must be Fulani people. If a branch is not part and another branch is fighting Benue State, can we feel comfortable at home in Benue State here to give them land to ranch?
The anti-grazing law, we quietly understood with it and we accepted it. It is the best way to handle this issue, problem of farmers and herdsmen. But we need time.
With every side represented and views heard, the state government is waiting for feedback to fully implement the open grazing prohibition law, which they believe will put an end to the bloodletting and devastation in the state.
Well, that's all from Abuja. It's back to you, Melinda.
Thank you so much, Maupe. A 5 billion naira agreement has been signed between the Bank of Industry and the Ministry of Mines and Steel to fund small-scale mining in the country. The Minister of Mines and Steel, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, explains that the initiative will help attract foreign investment, create jobs, and unlock the potentials of the sector for socio-economic development.
From Ogun State in the southwest to Nasarawa in north-central Nigeria, and from Enugu State in the southeast and Bayelsa State in the south-south, there are abundant mineral resources which remain untapped or harnessed by artisanal miners who operate in the informal sector. Figures by the National Bureau of Statistics on March 10, 2016 shows that over 43 million tons of solid minerals were produced. The statistics reveals that Ogun State produced the highest tons amongst the 30 states of the Federation. Solid minerals such as limestone, granite and laterite were top on the list of mineral produced.
Please sit down.
It is in view of how to raise the bar in making the non-oil sector contribute its quota to socio-economic development that officials of the Bank of Industry and officials of the Ministry of Mines and Steel are signing a 5 billion naira deal to harness the potentials of the sector.
The Nigerian Artisanal and Small-Scale Miners Financing Support Fund is a component of a broader program, the Nigerian Artisanal and Small-Scale Miners Financing Support Scheme, which is designed to achieve the following strategic objectives. First, to play a catalyzing role in unlocking funding to the mining sector, to provide alternative source of finance for artisanal and small-scale miners.
The Bank of Industry will be offering 2.5 billion naira with a counterpart funding of another 2.5 billion naira from the Ministry of Mines and Steel at an interest rate of 5% per annum.
The ministry insisted that the interest rate must not exceed 5%. I don't know where else you can borrow money at 5%. People should understand that this money is not a grant. It is not your part of national cake. The idea is that once you take the loan and you repay it, others will be able to benefit from it.
The 5 billion naira intervention in the mining sector, according to analysts, is expected to spur growth in the sector and improve the businesses of operators in the sector.
When the news at 10 returns, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, inaugurates 3 million ton capacity cement factory in Edo State. Join us again.